The target structure for this lecture is phrasal verbs with in and out. We're going to look at some phrasal verbs in this lecture. Now, before we start, if you don't know what a phrasal verb is, it's a phrase which contains a verb plus a preposition. For example, the phrase sit down is a phrasal verb because sit is a verb and down is a preposition. So whenever you see this structure, verb and preposition, it's probably a phrasal verb. In English, there are hundreds and hundreds. For example, sit down, stand up, go out, look down. These are all phrasal verbs. These are quite easy ones, but there are also some more challenging ones, which are difficult to figure out what the meaning is. We're going to look at a few in this lecture. We're going to look at phrasal verbs that contain in and out. Let's look at the first ones. So these two contain the preposition in. So the first phrasal verb is move in. Move in means start to live in a new house. For example, I've just bought a new apartment. I'm moving in on Friday. So this means the person is going to start living in her new house on Friday. The next phrasal verb is drop in. Drop in means go to see someone or go somewhere for a short time. For example, let's drop in to see Chris on the way home. So this means let's visit Chris on the way home for a short time. These are the next phrasal verbs. Plug in. This means connect an electrical supply to a machine. For example, the husband says, "The washing machine isn't working." The wife replies, "Because it isn't plugged in, silly." The next phrasal verb is break into, which means to illegally enter and steal something. For example, someone broke into my house while we were on holiday. The next phrasal verbs, join in, means start playing in an activity or sport. Greg says, "Hi, can I join in with your game?" Wesley replies, "Of course, you can play on our team." So join in means to start playing an activity or sport. Eat out means eat at a restaurant, not at home. I'm too tired to cook today. Let's eat out. Here are the next two phrasal verbs. Drop out. This means stop going to school or university before you complete your studies. So it means stop going to school or university early. Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of university before becoming hugely successful businessmen. So Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg stopped going to university before they finished their studies. Fill out means to complete a form. The example is, please fill out this document so that you can open your new bank account. So fill out means to write on a document, write your name, address, phone number, etc. Fill out. And here are the last two phrasal verbs. Cut out means eliminate or stop doing something. I'm going to cut out chocolate for a few weeks to try and lose weight. So cut out usually refers to a food or sometimes something bad that we should stop doing. And finally, figure out. This means find the answer to a problem. I finally figured out this puzzle. It took me hours. So those are the phrasal verbs we're going to focus on. There are 10 phrasal verbs. Some of them are easier than others. So for example, eat out. This means to eat at a restaurant instead of eating at home. It's quite logical when you think about the structure eat and out. Other phrasal verbs are a bit more tricky to solve. For example, figure out. Figure out means to solve a problem, to get the answer. And cut out. Cut out has 2 or 3 meanings in English. One meaning is to use a scissors and to cut out a picture. But the meaning we're focusing on is something different. It means to stop doing something bad. For example, I'm going to cut out chocolate because I'm getting fat. Or I'm going to cut out junk food because it's too unhealthy. So you'll start to train your brain to master these phrasal verbs in the speaking and listening section. Now let's quickly look at the structure of phrasal verbs. So I mentioned earlier the basic structure is verb plus a preposition. So prepositions could be, for example, in, out, on, down, up, etc. For example, everyone stood up and walked out of the room. That's the basic structure, but remember we're focusing on the phrasal verbs that contain in and out, so that we can just start to master the structure and train our brain to understand the meanings of these phrasal verbs. So move on to the next lecture. I'll see you there.